So you're considering to learn to speak Chinese? I'm going to give you 8 reasons why you should learn Chinese. There is a saying that when you know your why, then you can find the how. And having strong reasons is very important to motivate you and to push you through to do something. So it's very important to consider, what are your reasons for learning Chinese? For me, I wanted to learn Chinese because I thought it's very fascinating, interesting language. It's beautiful. There's not that many people who are learning Chinese, and I thought, there's going to be a lot of benefits and opportunities for learning Chinese in the future. The first reason why you should learn Chinese is that it's a very popular language, and there's over 1.3 billion people who speak Chinese. So if you can learn Chinese, it will open up this whole world of new opportunities. It will be very valuable for you to be able to communicate with them very easily. So there's a lot of potential benefits for doing that. The second reason is that you'll be able to travel to these amazing places, and you'll be able to learn Chinese in these amazing places and communicate with people. It'll make going to these places very easy and very much more fun and interesting, and you'll be able to understand the local culture much better. In China, there's some amazing places to travel, like the Great Wall, the Terracotta Warriors, taking a trip down the Yangtze River and exploring all these amazing places in China that are so diverse, from in the north, the south, east, west. You have all these different parts of China that you can explore and discover and understand what it's like to be really in China, and to understand what the real China is like, not just like what you see on the news or what you see in the big cities like in Shanghai and Beijing, but you can really explore China and see what it's really like. The third reason why you should learn Chinese is that the Chinese culture is so interesting. It's so different from the West, and Chinese culture is fascinating. You can definitely learn a lot of things from being in a new culture. Chinese culture has so many years of history. The fourth reason why you should learn Chinese is that it's going to open up a lot of business opportunities and career opportunities. If you want to work in a company in China, they will often require that you can speak Chinese, and you will have a HSK certificate of level 5 or more. And if you want to work in a Chinese company and you can't speak Chinese, it's going to make your opportunities very limited. It's definitely going to mean that you have less chances of finding a good job in China. So if you want to get a good job in China, or even if you just want to have a good work opportunity in other countries around the world and to deal successfully with Chinese people, then it will definitely be helpful to speak Chinese. Because when you go into a business meeting and you speak in Chinese, it's very different to when you speak in English. Because when you speak in a native language, it's like you're really connecting with that person, you're really having a connection. When you're just speaking in English and it's the foreign language, it feels maybe a little bit more distant. But when you can say something in Chinese, they're like, you understand me, and you have put in so much effort to learn my language. So there's a deeper connection. They know that you must understand about what China is like. They know that you understand China, and so they're going to be immediately more connected to you, and they're going to prefer to work with you compared to someone who doesn't speak Chinese. When you can understand the language and how the language works, it's like understanding how the culture works, because it's like a window into that culture. So you can understand how people think. So you could even just learn the language just to understand the culture and the way of thinking. There's a saying that Chinese is a written language that is spoken, but English is a spoken language that's written. So that means that the characters in English is just like how you would say it. But in China, the characters is the meaning of the word, and then you just pronounce it how it's written. So this is one interesting difference between the languages. And then when you look into the characters, you can see, what does that concept come from and what does it mean? In some way, in the written language in China is actually more rich than in English, because if you look at the English, we're just saying what it sounds like. There's no meaning in the actual character, but in the character you can actually see the small parts of the character and what it means. You can understand the story behind this character. And then when you have, so for example, Fu, which is the character for wealth, you can see that this is made of a house with a field and a mouth. So it means that you have enough harvest in the house. So it means that you're wealthy, so you have an abundance. When you have more complicated words and concepts, it's like two different concepts joining together, and they have these very interesting meanings. So the characters is a very interesting window into the culture of how Chinese works. It's very interesting to look at it because when you just see the world in one way of thinking, you have this one way of looking at the world. But when you can see it so you can see the same problem from the English way and then you can see it from the Chinese way. They come at it from different angles. They have these different cultural backgrounds. You have this different lens about how the culture works. The fifth reason why you should learn Chinese is that it will enable you to communicate with Chinese people, and you will be able to make friends and you will be able to understand Chinese people. And that's so cool, just to be able to go up to somebody and to communicate very freely and to build a relationship. And relationship skills is probably one of the most important things that you can develop. So if you can communicate and develop relationships with Chinese people, that's a really cool and useful skill to have, and it's it could be very valuable for your future. The sixth reason why you should learn Chinese is that it's actually very challenging. And it's very hard in some ways to learn Chinese because you have to understand the tones of the language. You have to say it in exactly the same way, otherwise it has a completely different meaning. So it has different tones in Chinese. If you say it in the wrong tone, then people may misunderstand you, and I've done that a few times because I'm not used to realizing how important the tones are. So there's some stories about when you say something and I just think it's this way, but then and then also the characters is very hard. But actually the difficulty of learning Chinese is one of the reasons why you should learn Chinese. You want to do difficult things, and because not everyone can speak Chinese, if you can do it, then it separates you from other people, and it means that you have overcome this challenge. And after you can speak Chinese, then you can do bigger challenges, and life is all about growing and doing difficult things and becoming better and improving. So the seventh reason why you should learn Chinese is actually that it's quite easy in some ways. The good news is that the grammar is very easy. It's not like German, for example, or English. It's not as complicated, so you don't have to learn many different verb endings, and you don't have to learn all these different rules and irregularities. The grammar can be very simple in Chinese and very logical, so it actually can be very quick to learn Chinese. And also it can be quite quick to learn the characters as well, if you can find a quick way of learning. For example, you can see that there's many different components that are the same in each language. So if you look at it like, okay, there's so many characters, I need to learn 5,000 characters, one by one by one. It's going to take a long time, it's going to be hard. But then if you look at all the characters and you see, okay, there are 20% of characters, for example, or there's 10% of characters that have this one symbol in it. What does that symbol mean? Okay, that symbol means fire. And then you can say, okay, this character is related to fire or heat. And then you can immediately say, okay, this 10% of characters is related to fire. This is related to water. This is related to wood, for example. And then you can just quickly learn all of those characters that are related to that. And that's the fastest way to learn, by the components of the characters. So the eighth reason why you should learn Chinese is that it makes you smarter. So when you're doing something challenging, when you learn Chinese, it definitely makes you smarter. There's some studies that say that when you learn a new language, it boosts your creativity and makes you more creative. There's also the 80-20 rule. So if you want to learn Chinese, you can actually learn 80% of Chinese in 20% of the time. Just by spending 2 or 3 months learning Chinese, you can be able to get to a fairly decent level of conversational Chinese, where you can just go out and have conversations with people. And when you can get to that level, it's very exciting and very cool, because it just kind of, this new world opens up. And so the question is, what else are you going to do in your time if you're not learning Chinese? What other worthwhile things are you going to do? Maybe learning Chinese can be a very smart thing for you to learn. So here I'm going to suggest some courses that you can check out, and you can even just book a trial class and you can check out what it's like to learn Chinese and get started. And I hope this has been helpful for you. So for me, actually, when I first came to China, my reasons for learning Chinese is because I thought it's a very fascinating language, it's very cool, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the future. I want to travel to China, I want to learn this difficult language, because I saw many people are learning European languages, and I thought that if you learn Chinese, it's going to be very valuable. So that's why I wanted to learn Chinese. Why do you want to learn Chinese? I'm interested in your comments. If you can leave me a comment and let me know in the comments below, and I'm interested to read your reasons for learning Chinese. And I wish you the best of luck in learning Chinese.